Hey freaks, welcome to Vegan Freak Radio number 62. It's the 8th of March.
Hey, freaks.
How are you?
It's Jenna.
I'm Bob. What's going on?
Hope you're all well out there in vegan land.
Everybody's well. Don't worry. Everybody's doing well. So, what's going on?
Not much. What happened to the music?
I pushed the slider a little too far.
Okay.
And that's where it's going to stay, because if I bring it back up, it's just going to be annoying.
Okay.
So, we got a lot of stuff to talk about on today's show. I want to just move right into it.
We'll do that then, yes. Okay.
Sorry we weren't out yesterday.
Yeah.
Jenna was having an unhappy day.
I was. It was kind of in a crappy mood, and I think the cold plus needing a vacation equals unhappy Jenna.
You were in an uber crappy mood. I looked at you yesterday. I said, we cannot do this show today.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
But, well, I'm in a better mood today, despite having to take the dog out in -4 temperatures.
It is cold out there. It's ridiculously cold.
Yeah. But, okay.
Why are we popping? Oh, no. Okay.
No.
Anyway, hey. So I want to talk about a couple things today on the show. We want to talk about a couple things today on the show. First off, I want to talk about why I think theory matters. And then we're going to talk a little bit about I don't think it was recent. It was in October. There was a conference on, it was called Delivering Humane Food in Canada. It's the Canadian Coalition for Farm Animals that put it on. And Temple Grandin and Paul Shapiro both spoke at this conference. And we were able to we were forwarded some video of it that I would like to talk about. It's up on their website. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to do email and voicemail, and then we're going to call it a show.
Ready.
Is that cool with you?
Cool by me.
All right. So first things first, I guess we should talk about before we go on. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, we had to change our URL. We are now veganfreakradio.com, and our new email address is show@veganfreakradio.com. So check that out. Make sure everything should work. Still should be working with iTunes. You shouldn't have to do anything at all. But just check to make sure.
But if you want to check out the show notes and get any of the links, now you need to go to our new address.
veganfreakradio.com.
Okay.
Yep. All right, but to move into kind of the substance of the show, the last couple weeks on the show, we've been talking a lot, and I think there's a lot of discussion out there on the internets these days. Yes, I pluralized it. That's an homage to my dear friend George W. Bush. But I think there's a lot of talk out there on the internets about theory and about how we're going to approach this question of animal activism and about how we're going to deal with what it is that we're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, all coming out of these welfarism versus abolition debates.
Correct. The new welfarism versus abolition debates that Eric and Gary had and things like that are, I think, leading to a lot of pretty heady discussion about how we're going to organize ourselves and organize our tactics, right? And whenever that happens, I tend to hear through back channels and read in various places this kind of grumbling that is really endemic to the left, actually. And it's this grumbling that is like, dude, will you just shut the fuck up and let's do something? Shut up, quit talking about theory, and let's do something. And I think it's really dangerous anti-intellectualism at one level. That's symptomatic of our larger culture because it's no joke. I mean, the United States is an anti-intellectual place at its core.
Very much so. And
I think that this bleeds over into even, quote-unquote, progressive movements that are supposed to be concerned about these issues. I also think it's kind of a masculinist thing, too. It's like a adventurous masculinist perspective on the world. It's like, shut the fuck up, talking's for girls, let's just do something. I really think that's a significant part of it. So it's this kind of like be tough and don't think behavior. That be tough and don't think behavior has done wonderful things for us in Iraq.
Oh yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, So what I'm trying to get at here is that thinking and debating are really essential. If we don't think and we don't debate and we don't have theory attached to our action, how will we ever know what our goals are? How will we ever know what we're aiming to achieve and how we're going to achieve it? it isn't just mental masturbation. I mean, we're not just talking about theory because, it makes us feel good.
And we're not just doing it to be divisive either,
But
that's the other thing that comes out of these debates. Yeah.
It's divisiveness. Now, what I don't understand about the divisiveness critique is that why is it that the position that, say, we hold is the divisive one, right? Mm-hmm. Why is it that our position is not the correct one and therefore the other one, the divisive one?
Good question.
Debate is not divisive. Debate is important.
Debate is supposed to be constructive. And like you just said, how will we ever know what actions to do and how to do them if we don't have talk about the theory behind it?
Precisely.
Yes.
So action without theory, it's really simple to shoot yourself in the foot that way. It's like tilting at windmills. You can end up doing all these things that really do not have at their base well thought out, well considered, well planned ideas. Mm-hmm. You can do all kinds of action, but if there's not a theory behind it guiding you to an ultimate principle or an ultimate end, that action is problematic, or it could be very problematic.
Indeed. And it really also just helps you talk to people. If you know the kind of theory behind why you're doing what it is you're doing, then I think it really helps other people to understand why you're doing what you're doing.
I completely agree. So I think that we need to be pretty thoughtful in our theory so that we can be thoughtful in our action. And maybe it's just me, I'm an academic, and maybe that's why I think theory matters. But I actually think theory matters because otherwise you don't have any way of approaching action. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about that briefly because people grumble about, you spend so much damn time talking about this shit and you don't actually ever do anything and blah, 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 fucking blah. But I'm here to tell you that you need theory. Come on. Marx. Look at Marx. Karl Marx, right? Who talked about how theory and praxis were a unity. They could not exist without each other.
Indeed.
And I agree with that. Okay. Anything else you want to say on that point?
No.
Okay. Moving on. Another thing we kind of heard from last week is that people have kind of had a few little grumblings here and there about our assertion of Eric Marcus and HSUS using tactics that are similar to what the Republicans do. You're smiling, Jenna, but they can't hear you smile.
Sorry. Yeah.
Do you have something to say?
Bad radio there. Yeah. No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, what I want to say is that I don't think that the politics that Eric has match the politics of the Republican Party. I don't think Eric is... I don't really know, but I mean, I'm willing to bet that, Eric isn't into the war, and I'm willing to bet that, he's generally a progressive in my experience with him. So I'm not trying to say that he is a Republican, and I'm not trying to say that his politics are like that of a Republican, but I am saying qualitatively as an analysis of different tactics, that the tactics that he and the Humane Society used are similar to the tactics that the Republican Party has used.
Yes, it's a comparison of tactics, not of, like you just said, of equating those two things with Republicans.
Right.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say is that the tactics are similar. Mm-hmm. And the tactics have, at their goal, I think, the same kind of idea, which is to paint one's critics or enemies in a very negative light, and to therefore distance them, to make them look even completely illogical or out there or insane.
Right, to make associations where they don't exist.
Right.
Like between, Gary Francione
and
the
United
Egg
Egg Producers. Yeah.
Right. So
that's the difference, though. What people are arguing is that we're just as guilty of doing, what we say Eric does on our show, right? That, we say that he's linking Gary to United Egg Producers, but people write back to us and say, well, you're linking Eric to the Republicans. Isn't it the same thing? And I say to you, no, it's not the same thing. One is based on an analysis that has underneath it a theoretical understanding of how debate is structured. Okay.
And if you don't believe us, go read George Lakoff.
There you go. Okay. All right. That's another thing we're done with. And if you have comments on that, I mean, here's the thing. People, I think, have this great idea that we are... I don't know. I've read some things on the show that say that, everything's fine as long as you agree with Bob and Jenna. Or I think it's usually just Bob.
Yeah, I'm an afterthought on most people, for most people.
It's not that you're an afterthought. I don't know. I guess I must be the more strident of the two of us.
Yeah, that's probably.
And I must be the less tolerant of the two of us. I mean, I do tend to go after the critics pretty harshly in some ways.
But, part of what we do is if we don't agree with something, we're going to critique it.
Well, why not?
Why not? That's our jobs.
Exactly. But what I'm trying to say is that if you don't agree with what we're saying, we'll take an email from you, and we'd be happy to read some of it on the show, or a voicemail,
There are plenty of people out there that certainly do not agree with us. So
That's the understatement of the year. Mm-hmm. And speaking of people that don't agree with us, we have some audio to roll for you that I think is kind of interesting. Now, this audio, it's from Temple Grandin and Paul Shapiro. We'll begin with Temple Grandin. This audio was forwarded to me. A link to this stuff was forwarded to me by Ida Misanthropy, and I want to thank her for that because this made my blood pressure go up. It was one of those things I listened to these things and I went, holy shit. Like, they annoyed me that much. And I thought, if it annoyed me that much, I should bring it to our listeners and annoy them too.
It's our gift to you. It's
our gift to you. We have to annoy you in the way that we are annoyed. But let's begin with Temple Grandin. Temple Grandin session here. Again, this is a conference called Delivering Humane Food in Canada, the Canadian Coalition for Farm Animals. And these are audio excerpts. The quality is not great on them, but it's good enough that you'll understand what they're saying. Temple Grandin's session was Humane Animal Handling and Slaughter. Now, I don't know if you know anything about Temple Grandin. I imagine most of you do, but in case you don't know anything about Temple Grandin, she designs quote-unquote humane slaughter systems. That's like oxymoronic.
Yeah.
She wrote a book called Animals in Translation, Understanding the Mysteries of Autism to Decode Animal Behavior, in which she argued, and I read most of this book. Actually, I read the whole book. It made me really angry when I read it.
Yeah.
But I read it.
I'm amazed you didn't without throwing it across the room.
It wasn't our book, or I would have.
Yeah.
I refused to buy the book, number
of
one. I went to the library and got it because I was like, fuck this, I'm not going to buy this book. And it's not like a book I want in my reference library.
No.
If I saw Temple Grandin's name on my bookshelf, I think I would have a heart attack or something. I don't know. My cholesterol's too low for that. I think I would have I don't know. Anyway, Temple Grandin, Animals in Translation. We talked about her book. Ooh, man.
Ooh, a long time ago.
Eons ago. So if any of you are working through the archives, you may have heard it. And she argues that her autism helps her to understand animals. And then she uses that understanding to help design slaughter and handling systems. So it's like she argues, I understand the animals because I'm autistic and I have a special kind of access to the way in which they see the world. And using that access, I'm going to help design systems to fucking kill them.
That's sick.
That is sick.
It's just so twisted.
It is really, really messed up. And I read somewhere, but I can't remember where, that she designed this system for autistic children that's based upon some of the designs that she's used for animal handling. So there's this little thing called a cow hugger that's meant to put autistic children into this kind of enclosed space so they feel, I don't know, whatever. It's supposed to, I didn't read that much about it. I'm just trying to extemporaneously pulling this out of my memory here. But that would worry me. Like, if you had someone who designed slaughterhouse systems who was designing stuff for children, I would think, is she going to kill them too?
Yeah, really.
So, now here's the thing about Temple Grandin. She is a professed animal killer. I don't know if she enjoys it, but listen, she may.
Yeah.
She has worked extensively on killing animals, right? On coming up with ways to kill animals. And these ways of killing animals that she comes up with are meant to increase profit. That's important to understand. They're meant to increase profit. My volume is slowly fading away here. Crap. There we go. Sorry. Our knobs are wonky again.
But we did buy a piece of equipment to fix this.
Yes, we did.
So next week, hopefully.
Next week that will be working for sure. Anyway, point is, she won an award in 2005 from PeTA as a Visionary of the Year. That's right. From PeTA. She won an award. PeTA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, gave Temple Grandin an award for being a visionary. Now, I'm just going to let that wait so you can let that sink in for a moment. A lot of you probably knew that. But the other thing about Temple Grandin is that she works with McDonald's and Wendy's. And she's a visionary for PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. Mm-hmm. Okay. A lot of her work focuses on limiting what she calls loss through improper handling of animals. And her concerns are economic and what she calls meat quality. And I think, in all honesty, when I listen to these quotes, she sounds like a fucking heartless butcher.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about a couple of these things? This is one quote from her. I gotta find it here. We are all about high quality production values here at Vegan Freak Radio. Anyway, This is one of the quotes from her presentation at the Delivering Humane Food. What is humane food? Humane food to me is a vegetable. Mm-hmm. It's food that did not suffer.
Didn't have to die.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, here's this quote from Temple, my friend Temple.
Now, I always get asked, are cattle afraid of getting slaughtered? They're much more afraid of the dark. You see how dark the entrance there looks? And what we did to fix that was we ripped off some of the tin and replaced it with white translucent panels to let in lots of shadow-free light.
Cattle are more afraid of the dark than they are of dying.
Yeah.
So make things more light so we can kill them more easily.
Yeah, she sounds excited when she talks about this stuff.
She does.
I don't know.
She does it for a living, so
I know.
she must be excited by it. She
Exactly.
goes in. I mean, this is the thing about Temple Grandin. She goes into slaughterhouses, and she will walk through them and look for places where there are going to be obstructions or issues where animals will resist. You know, I mean, they're going to resist being slaughtered because they know it's coming.
They don't want to die.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very basic concept of
Yeah.
sentience, right? I mean, it's a subjective awareness of who that animal is as
Exactly.
as a subjective being.
Yeah, and if you ever read the book Slaughterhouse by Gail Eisnitz, which will come up, I'm sure, in our discussion again, it's so evident that these animals just do not want to die. They do not want to be there, and they know what's coming.
But Jenna, don't you know that's just, I mean, like Descartes, right? You're just kicking it. It's just the cogs.
Oh, right. It's
Right,
just
it's
their
just the
natural
movement of the
instincts.
machinery.
Yeah. Okay, whatever.
Okay, and here's another little quote. I mean, there's so many to pick out of these. I just don't know where to go. What you should know about this quote, though, is that this is Temple Grandin. There's video attached to this audio on the website. We'll put links to it in the show notes at veganfreakradio.com. Grandin is pointing to a picture of a guy who's holding a captive bolt gun in a slaughterhouse. And he's got the gun up to the head of an animal. And on the side of the bolt gun is a piece of material. So let's just, I'll let this go here.
Now, you see this little curtain hanging down here? That's to block the vision of the next animal. You gotta make sure you don't let that get ripped off. This is where you get into details. Animals are really into details. You better, if that curtain gets ripped off, you better put another one up there. It's just a piece of conveyor belting. But it's a really important piece of conveyor belting.
Okay, so here's the thing. Are animals afraid of slaughter? No, they're more afraid of the dark. But if you have this little piece of conveyor belt that's attached onto the captive bolt gun, and by the way, a captive bolt gun is what is used. It's a gun that has a pneumatic bolt in it that is driven into the head of the animal to incapacitate it for slaughter. Mm-hmm. And it's often done imperfectly. Mm-hmm. So animals are often, well, they're always alive for the whole process, but they're often cognizant of the process. Mm-hmm. So anyway, she says you need to get that piece of conveyor belt to block the view from the next animal. Are animals aware of slaughter? No, they're more afraid of the dark, but you still have to block the view of them being killed.
Right. Or they'll see all the other friends getting killed and
panic. So everything that she's doing is about trying to hide that.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a little chilling to me, the way that she does this. And there are excerpts of her talk that actually made me feel a little sick. And being the kind of guy that I am, I have to share them with you. Before I do share them, though, I should tell you that for some of you, this may be a little graphic. I don't know. I thought it was kind of sickening. But what she's going to talk about now are the ways in which animals are stunned, and as they come into the slaughterhouse, and it's really strange to me. I mean, really strange. But let's let this go too. And this, by the way, Visionary of the Year, 2005, from PeTA.
That doesn't work.
I gotta go back to beginning. Sorry, we're in the middle of the quote here. There we go.
Okay, let's get into electric stunning. Captive bolt, using a penetrating captive bolt, and that's done right, it kills your animal instantly. Now, there's some plants that will use a non-penetrating captive bolt for Muslim slaughter. You know, it just works with impact. That doesn't work quite as well as the penetrating captive bolt. The non-penetrator, it'll work, but you have a very, very small margin of error. You've got to get it on absolutely exactly to get a good stun, and they need to be bled quickly when you're using that. Okay, now electrical stunning, you got two kinds. You got head only, where you pass it through the head, and that's temporary stun. And this is very common in small plants, in the real little plants. And this lamb's going to wake up in 15 or 30 seconds if you don't bleed it right away. And one of the big problems I see in the little teeny bitty places is they got a beef hoist that goes about this fast. So by the time they get the lamb hung up or the pig, it's waking back up. You've got to watch with head-only stunning, what I call stunning to stick interval. If you're using a head-only stunner like this, and then there's that one that's the B and D unit with the two things like that, that's a piece of junk. You want to get a, if you're going to do, you want to get a tongue-type stunner like this. Notice that's going right through the brain. You've got to get it on so it goes through the brain. Because the way electric stunning works is it induces a grand mal epileptic seizure. And if you don't induce a grand mal epileptic seizure, then you're going to have problems with, your animal may just feel the whole thing, and that's going to be terrible. And when the head-only stun, they'll clench up like this, and then you'll get a tonic phase, where you'll get this pattern. Well, that shows you get a grand mal seizure. Now, if you're using one of these lamb or pig plant in a little place, the best thing to do is you stun them across the head like this, and then you can reapply the tongs over the heart. But you've got to make sure you do the head first. Absolutely, absolutely. And this shows a head to back where you simultaneously knock out the brain and the heart at the same time. And you've got to get that for positioning. It's okay to put it behind the ears, but you must not put it here.
Now here's a woman who claims to understand the lives of animals. She claims to understand what it's like to be an animal, the sensory perception of animals, the life of animals. And she's talking about how to properly apply instruments of death over the organs of animals, over their brain, over their heart, to kill them.
Yeah.
She's a visionary. You know what's visionary? Not eating animals and not killing them for our wants and needs. Quote unquote needs. Not even really needs. So I found that very chilling.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of sick too, in a sense.
Yeah, like you absolutely need to do this.
But it's like the calm calculation behind it is what disturbs me the most. It's like cool and calmly calculating about how to kill an animal.
Yeah.
Another living being. And what I found really compelling about this audio in one way and in like a weird way is that she talks about these animals having brains and hearts. Mm-hmm. We have brains and hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And our brains do very similar things to what their brains do, especially in the perception of pain.
Yep.
Our hearts do exactly what their hearts do.
Yep.
So if they have brains like we do, and they have hearts like we do, why can't we see that they suffer like we do? And why can't we see that Temple Grandin is a complete fucking fraud that the movement should not touch?
I don't know.
We should not go near this woman, period. She should be relegated to some Hall of Fame with Dr. Mengele and Hannibal Lecter. She is a serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
She's that cool and calm and calculating. I bet she's got little memorabilia in her office from all of her victims. I'm not kidding. I bet.
Well, she does still eat them.
That's true, too.
And I'm sure she wears them, so yeah.
But the thing I want to really get across here is that I think that what this is about is reducing animal resistance to increase profit. Let's not beat around the bush. That's really what is going on. And what Eisnet's book really points out well, and I know because I've been reading it for my own book lately, is how the more animals resist, the more money it costs, and the more it damages the meat. It changes the quality of the meat.
Yeah. Or, they lose the entire animal, and that's definitely not something that you want if you need to get profit off of every single animal.
That's right. So what we're looking at here is really an effective way of commodifying the body of an animal, right? Taking that body of an animal and turning it into a different kind of commodity. And that's the kind of thing that I talk about quite a lot in my book. But what I think is really, I find disturbing is how readily she's able to help move animals towards slaughter. And that she claims to know how they feel, yet she's willing to help them die. Like, it's really weird to me. Really weird. I don't understand it at all. Because I would think if you understood the lives of animals, your desire would be not to have them die at all.
Yeah, or she obviously does not understand animals.
And
at all.
The weird thing about Temple Grandin is that she's almost a star at this conference. Like, you get the sense when you go and watch the video that, and you can hear, if you go back and listen to it, you hear this little someone's taking pictures of her. Like, who would take pictures of this person? Like, are you? It's like groupies, you know. I'm waiting, you know, all these humane meat eaters pulling off their bras and underwear and throwing them at her like she's a groupie or something, right? It's weird to me.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Okay, so if this is what people think is humane, they are completely... I think they're fucked in the head. I'm just going to lay it on the line. She also, in parts of this thing, talks about how we need to give animals experience around people so that when they're around people at the slaughterhouse, they don't panic. Because some animals that are raised in, feedlots or confined operations like that don't have experience around people.
No, they never ever see them.
Right. Or they only see them in a certain place. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that is about producing humane food, quote unquote humane food. What fucking idiocy that is. All right, let's move on to Paul Shapiro.
All right.
Yes, Paul Shapiro. We talked about him a little bit last week on the show. He was on Eric's radio show 2 weeks ago at this point. And I was interested to watch his video at the Humane Food Conference. His presentation was titled Beyond Battery Cages. And, you know, it's typical stuff that you would expect to hear. But I thought there were a couple quotes that were worth pulling out. And here's one part where Shapiro is talking about how vital it is. No, not how vital it is. I don't want to misconstrue what he's saying. He's talking about how talking about some of the struggles between industry and kind of the activist community, if you want to put it that way, or whatever you would call the HSUS, the sellout co-opted community. And here's what he has to say about that kind of dynamic.
Can we work together cooperatively and productively to do things that we both have a common interest in, which is improving the plight of animals? Even people in the industry don't claim that they aren't concerned about animal welfare. Why don't we work together in order to help improve these animals' plight and reduce the enormous amount of suffering that they are currently enduring? I agree with, I agree with John that rather than putting money into public relations efforts to defeat common sense, moderate reforms like the Arizona initiative and like the campaign to phase out battery cage confinement, the industry ought to be putting money into improving the welfare of these animals' lives. Just to give an example, the United Egg Producers gave $500,000 to a public relations firm in the United States to try to defend battery cage confinement in the press. Similarly, the National Pork Producers Council has now put in about $500,000 to defeat us in Arizona. The American Veal Association has put thousands of dollars into this. These trade groups are squandering the agricultural community's money on losing battles. I mean, they've raised over $1 million now to get to 16%. It's a waste of the community's money, and it's just poor strategy. Our battery cage campaign is not about creating ideal living conditions for hens. We know that cage-free egg farms do not necessarily mean that the animals will not have any welfare disadvantages. Of course, cage-free doesn't necessarily mean cruelty-free.
Okay. Do you have anything you want to say about this?
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Okay, I mean, first off, I think the whole approach that these people have, like HSUS and the folks who promote cage-free systems like this, I think it's disingenuous on the one hand. I mean, here Paul Shapiro is talking to industry, trying to pal up to them, essentially. But on the other hand, if you hear people who support these things say what they will say in the company of vegans, they want animal industry gone altogether. Now, what is it? Are you concerned about the animal agriculture industry squandering their money, Paul? Or do you want animal agriculture gone altogether? Tell me, which is it? Because to me, it sounds like you're giving them advice about how to properly talk about their message to the public. That's what I hear when I listen to this. I mean, he's talking about squandering the community's money. Isn't that what we would want? Don't we want them to squander their money? Wouldn't it be great if they were blowing their money on this shit? I think it's fine, you know? Let them squander their money. Good. Who cares? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Not to say that I would support the campaigns that would allow them to squander their money, but if they're squandering their money, why are we upset? I can't see any reason to be upset about them squandering their money. Can you?
Not particularly.
And he's trying to make this argument to them that they're squandering their money. And then, of course, he says, cage-free isn't about ideal conditions. Well, why not? I mean, yeah. If it's not about ideal conditions and it's not about abolishing... Go ahead.
No. So then why is he fighting for it?
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
If it's not about ideal conditions and it's not about abolishing the use of animals, why are we fighting for it? Why? Besides to help industry, what are we doing? I mean, people say that we exaggerate this position, that these groups are interested in helping industry. Listen to what Paul just said. He just said, look, you're going to lose the battles on the welfare front. Why don't you spend your money on improving welfare reforms? He's advising industry. We should not be advising industry. We should be fighting against this industry because at its core, it contains principles that are morally wrong. You should talk now.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Can I get any more out of you?
Well, you're on a roll, so go ahead.
Well, you're throwing me that look, and I knew you would before we started the show. I said, Jenna, you're in a bad mood, and it's not going to be a good show because you're going to throw me looks the whole show.
No, I'm fine. I will talk later.
All right. Let's roll the second piece here. Let's see. This is a Q&A session in which Paul is asked about alternatives to improving welfare and egg production from an audience member.
What you have is a situation where the animals' lives are better. Are they ideal? No. There still are very large flock sizes, which can be problematic. They still can be debeaked without painkiller, which is an animal welfare concern. They still can be subjected to forced molting through starvation. Admittedly, there's only a minority of egg producers who still engage in that practice in the United States, but it's still permissible in a cage-free egg system. They still may not go outside, which has many animal welfare benefits, provided that there's safe protection from the elements and predators and so on. But the aviary system really does improve animal welfare, and it's one system that we think can significantly reduce animal suffering if producers were to switch over to them.
Okay, so let's take stock of what can happen. Animals are debeaked. They're force molded. Now he says they're force molded and that they can't be force molted through starvation anymore. But they can be force molted through reduced calorie feed, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a problem. And there's no access to outside.
And there's still large flocks.
And they're
still don't have room.
Yeah. So is this an improvement? I mean, is this the Connecticut minimum security prison that we would like it to be? I don't know.
I still don't understand why he's promoting this if he himself admits that it's no better, really.
Yeah.
That there still have all these humane issues.
But
because the only way that we're going to get rid of all these issues
is
to stop doing it in the first place.
Exactly. But you see, that's why I always argue that they have given up before they've even started the battle. Mm-hmm. They assume that we can't. They assume that it is impossible to strike at the roots of this problem. But what they don't seem to understand, as far as I understand the situation, is that they are working with an industry that is always concerned with extracting the most possible profit out of the bodies of animals. When you have an industry that is based on that at its core, how are you going to get anything out of them except for the extraction of profit? You aren't going to ever convince them that abusing animals for money is wrong.
No.
You can't convince them of that. How can you?
Never.
Right. So why bother with them? Let's bother with the people that create the demand for that industry. Mm-hmm. Let's start there and attack the roots of the problem rather than trying to make buddy and nice with the people in industry who are doing things that are ethically despicable. Because it is ethically despicable. Mm-hmm. Okay. Sorry, I get a little fired up about this stuff. Even now, I've listened to all of these things millions of times at this point. What?
No, yeah, I know. They are angering.
They get me all fired up.
That's good. Up. They should.
Yeah, but it's not healthy. And I don't know. I get this little throbbing thing in the top of my head. There's a little vein up there.
That's not good. You need to channel this energy into something more positive. Like doing the radio show to get more people to go vegan so we don't have to talk about these kinds of things.
Well, but it's important to talk about these kinds of things because, and I want to talk about this in a moment, I think people automatically get shunted into these kinds of ideas because they assume that that's what animal rights activism represents.
No, I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about these things. That's not what I said. But
I
misunderstood. In the ideal situation is that we could one day stop talking about this altogether because everybody went vegan.
Because the whole world's vegan?
Yeah.
That would be brilliant.
Yeah.
That would be incredibly brilliant.
Yeah, no shit. But
okay, here's the third one. Paul is talking about some alternatives to gestation crates. And I want you to listen to how he tries to make this enticing to his audience. Okay?
At the same time, electronic sow feeding for for the group housing of breeding sows is an economical, high welfare system, or higher welfare system at a bare minimum, that is an alternative to the use of gestation crates. And economic analyses even show that electronic sow feeding systems are, in some cases, cheaper than gestation crate systems. And I can provide you with those analyses if you want. Not that I have them with me, but I'm happy to email them to you.
Okay, so what does he say? He says that this is economically more productive. Now, I don't know. Isn't one of the critiques that's floating around out there, say during a debate, that these measures are often meant in the interest of industry to help it be more economically productive? Am I imagining that was said?
No, not at all.
Okay, so there. I mean, selling these welfarist notions to the industry as economical, as improving the economy and efficiency of the industry. This is one of the main arguments out there that Gary Francione has about the new welfarist line, is that it improves efficiency in the end, and that's why they're often taken up.
Yeah.
And there, Paul is arguing it.
Exactly.
I don't need to say any more about that.
It speaks for itself pretty much.
So what I think happens then is that we end up with people who are supposedly working in the interest of animals, using that interest to help the industry sell more product. And I think what it does is it makes the product more palatable to the public. Because look, what did he say earlier? He said, "What?" I didn't roll all that part for you, but he's talking about these welfare battles and how all public opinion polls show that people prefer that animals not be tortured in this way. And so what he's saying to the industry is, why waste all this money fighting us when you could be on our side and helping to improve welfare? And the industry should join up with HSUS to do this. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
HSUS though doesn't have what?
Yeah, it's just absurd to me. I mean, he's helping people feel better about eating their meat. It's what it comes down to.
Dare I say happy meat?
Yes.
Anyway, so Delivering Humane Food in Canada. I mean, I think Shapiro has become nothing more than an advisor to the industry. And if we take him at his word, this is an industry that he would want abolished, right? But, strange to me that he's interested in helping them out. And
yeah, he wants them to make more profit off these welfare issues.
Well, he wants them not to squander their money,
yeah.
He says, right? And, that these things are inexpensive, they benefit the industry and things like that. So I wonder then, why are we listening to the HSUS? They've got nothing to do with vegan advocacy. They aren't advocating veganism. They aren't advocating abolitionism. They aren't advocating an end to animal slavery. They aren't advocating anything like that. In fact, they're advocating a system that is kinder and gentler. And granted, I'm not opposed to the reduction of suffering, but they're still advocating a system that at its core is exploitative of animals. And if it were human beings in the exact same position, none of us would support it. Mm-mm. Instead, we're using our species privilege to say, well, it's animals, it's okay.
Any reduction in suffering is great. Of course, but there's a lot better way we could be going about this.
Yep. And then there's another interesting thing here. If you actually go back and do a little bit of research on Paul and his positions on things, in 2006, in USA Today, Paul Shapiro said, "The quality of life of a cage-free hen is so much better than the quality of life of a battery cage hen that this campaign is meant to move the industry in that direction." That's when Paul was working with the Humane Society of the United States. That's in USA Today. But in 2004, in an article in the Christian Science Monitor, Paul said, "But cage-free doesn't necessarily mean much in terms of quality of life for hens. Eggs labeled cage-free often come from hens packed side by side in massive sheds," Shapiro says. "Their access to the outdoors may be only through a tiny opening." That's when Paul was working for Compassion Over Killing. So, which is it, Paul? Are you for it or are you against it? Are you 2004 Paul or are you 2006 Paul? Are you 2004 working with Compassion Over Killing Paul, or are you 2006 I've sold my soul to the Humane Society Paul? Which is it? Because those two quotes to me sound quite different.
Yep.
Do they not?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I don't know. Granted, you could probably go back and find things I said I would disagree with 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm sure on this very podcast.
There is no question
Yeah.
that 2 years ago I was saying things on here that were ridiculous. were we even doing this 2 years? No, year and a half ago when we started this thing.
Yeah.
I guarantee you I was saying shit that I didn't know anything about.
Of course.
But I think that that's actually one of the dangers with some of this welfarist stuff is that because the large movement organizations dominate the movement, people just come into it, and they come into it often through these organizations, not always, but sometimes. And I think that they think that that's the only way, that's what it is, that's what it represents. But the moment that you can realize that there's something else out there, it's like being in the Kool-Aid line at Jonestown, and maybe stepping out. Mm-hmm. Let the cult continue on, and you realize, hey, maybe what the cult is doing isn't the right thing to do. So I'm trying to encourage those of you that are still interested in this stuff to step out of the Kool-Aid line. And those of you that have stepped out of the Kool-Aid line, I'm looking for a little bit of companionship here. I guess I want to close this whole thing about Shapiro and Temple Grandin. And by the way, I'm not comparing them necessarily. Paul Shapiro doesn't talk about how to kill animals. He just helps industries that do. There was a quote from James on our forums, and I assume it's James Crump, but if it's not, I apologize. And James had a nice thing here where he kind of summed it up, I think, very concisely. He said, welfare strategy, when confronted with a deeply entrenched form of institutionalized exploitation, is to rank the hideousness of the various exploitative practices and then promote the forms that they take to be slightly less horrendous than the absolute worst forms. They are so misguided that they believe that promoting that which we are supposed to be opposing is the right thing to do. In doing so, Marcus et al. Have become completely morally compromised. In promoting animal exploitation, they have effectively become exploiters. Now, what else could we see except for what Shapiro was just talking about? As a general matter, we have ceased to be a viable protest movement when we begin promoting that which we rose up to negate. When this happens, we have become co-opted and integrated. We no longer exist in any meaningful sense. And he goes on throughout it, but then he finishes by saying, we abolitionists, on the other hand, are the counter movement. We must not become co-opted, integrated, and compromised. And I completely agree.
Yes, that was a very good analysis of the whole situation.
So I just want to close that out by saying, first off, thanking the Ida for sending us those video links. I also want to thank Gary Francione for some links and ideas and things like that. So, because, I talked about this stuff with some folks. Before I do stuff, I talk.
Cool.
All right, I'm done my ranting and raving. You should be talking for the rest of the show now because this was Bob Radio.
It's been Bob's show.
I'm not going to talk again for the rest of the show.
Okay.
Should we play our email theme song?
We have some emails, yes.
Let's play an email theme song. Lighten up the mood a little.
All right.
Actually, let's play the more kind of punky, fun. What do you think?
Go for it.
Drop the phone, it'll save you a tenner. Send an email to Bob and Jenna.
Okay, we have 2 emails we're going to read this week. The first one's from Alana, something like that. I apologize. I wrote about vegan Indian food not too long ago, and I really appreciate you guys answering my question. It was very helpful. Right now, I'm listening to Tuesday's episode of Coast to Coast AM. The guest is John Robbins, heir to the Baskin-Robbins fortune. At first, I figured he'd be a daring, loving sleazebag, but he actually recognized the dangers of dairy in his late teens and rejected the business and trust fund his father set up for him. He and his wife are all about the dangers of the modern food industry practices. They lived in a single-room log cabin and grew their own organic food. Currently, he has a book out called Healthy at 100. I was just really surprised to hear him preach a lot of the same things that vegans preach. He even went into detail about the horrors of chicken farming and the dyes that are put into fish tanks to make the flesh look a certain way. The only thing that stopped me short of nominating him as an angel was the fact that he does not promote a vegan lifestyle. He basically said, quote, "There's no reason to go to that extreme," end quote. Arg. I was really digging this guy until that filth came out of his mouth. I hate it. Yeah. I hate it when people assume that being vegan is some sort of extremist notion. As if living in a single-room log cabin that you build yourself is not extreme. John's one step away from being a vegan. He's got all the arguments down, but he still consumes animal flesh that is quote-unquote free-range. Free-range? Give me a break. I don't understand how a person can be so knowledgeable on the issues but still consume flesh. Do either of you have a theory on why some people understand the issues but still continue to consume animal flesh? Is it fear of letting go of old habits? Is it denial? I really don't know. Anyway, I thought I'd just let you guys know. Keep up the good work.
Can I just get a...
On vegan.
On vegan.
Yeah. Well, if you're interested in the reasons as to why people know but still don't do anything, I would go back and listen to one of our podcasts with Melanie Joy. And Melanie did her dissertation on the psychological reasons that there is disconnect between meat and the people who eat it. And she mostly, in her dissertation, she focused on people who work in slaughterhouses or butchers. But the same processes go on for people who eat meat. And even if after learning about it. And basically it's a certain like psychological processes like denial, avoidance, rationalization, justification, and dissociation. So they use all of these psychological processes basically to justify their ideology, which she calls carnism.
Right.
So they're stuck in this ideology, and they see no reason to, get out of it, or they don't want to, or they don't see any reason to, because even if they know that there's something wrong with it, their brain just can't justify, doing anything about it.
But John Robbins is an interesting case because he wrote a book that long ago I read that actually convinced me to become a vegetarian.
Me too, and a lot of people. He's been really influential in getting people to go vegetarian.
It was Diet for a New America. I read it in college, and it was one of those books where I was like, wow, I had to become a vegetarian.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he writes about all these issues and then, goes back to the way it is. I think the reasons are complex. I mean, certainly the ideology of carnism is one of them.
I wasn't done. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of other reasons. There are cultural reasons. There are traditions and, the associations with family, with comfort, things that people don't want to give up. And there are associations, too, that we talk about all the time on the show, usually in respect with, like, commercials and that kind of things. Eating meats associated with masculinity, associated with virility, and all of these things. And being vegan is associated with women, with weakness, with the extreme diet that you talked about, with poor people, like we were talking about. And so people don't want to be seen as doing that.
That's true. And also, if a lot of males out there, maybe you have experience with this if you have a vegan partner, but you will meet people and they'll go, "Oh, you're a vegan? Did your wife make you do that?"
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Another thing is, I think that people don't like to challenge authority.
That's a big one.
That's a huge one. Or they don't want to make themselves seem like a pain in the ass.
Or make anyone go out of the way.
Right, including themselves. So they might reduce their meat at home, but if they go out, then, they'll eat whatever is there because it's there. They don't want to, have to make the waiter go through any trouble. They don't want to have to make their family go through any trouble, these kinds of things. And I think a large part of it is, like, people like John Robbins may understand the reasons for being vegan or understand why it might be necessary, but they don't see it as an ideology. They see it as a diet.
Right.
And I think it is so important to see it as an ideology and a lifestyle.
Absolutely. A counter-ideology to the predominant one.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I think so many people just see, it's a diet choice, so why bother? Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well, I think what the ideology of carnism promotes is this idea, and it was discussed in the literature a long time ago. I don't remember who authored it, but I remember citing it in one of the papers I published. It talks about the TINA syndrome. There is no alternative. I mean, it establishes this hegemonic construct of the boundaries of what is possible. Mm-hmm. And if we live in a society that is in fact carnist, we assume then that the boundaries of what is possible, that eating only vegetables is outside of the boundaries of what is possible, because carnism sets up for us that little worldview where, well, of course we eat dairy, of course we eat.
Right, it's what we do. So, there's no no reason to challenge it.
That's right.
Right.
But John, but I also think that a lot of this new wave of kind of conscientious omnivorism is coming out of Michael Pollan and the foodie kind of connection to all this stuff. Oh yeah. Where, I think a lot of people recognize also, I mean, let's not overthink it. I think some people realize that there's a honeypot there.
Yeah, you can get way more money for, humanely raised meat that supposedly tastes really good.
Yeah. But also, I mean, I think John Robbins, right?
Oh, yeah.
Come on. Mm-hmm. I mean, what's going to sell better? A book about veganism or a book about how you can be a conscientious omnivore?
And still be healthy at 100. Yeah.
I don't know. Well, anyway, we have a show coming up in which we will talk about the health aspects of veganism.
Yeah, that's not something we talk about on the show very much.
We never talk
about
it, but we are going to move right into it in full force, probably next week, if all goes well, or the week after.
Yeah, soon.
So keep your ears out for that one.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. It's completely complicated.
Yeah. There's something else I wanted to say about that, but I totally
Sorry.
forgot. Oh, no. Well, actually, it was basically, that's why we need to show people that veganism is possible.
That's right.
We have to show them that there is an alternative, you know?
Oh, yeah.
We have to show them that you can live healthy, you can be happy, there are people out there that do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the more of them are out there and just are living by example or are willing to talk about it in positive ways, I think that's so important.
Well, that's why we always say that veganism is a symbolic protest.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't just what you eat. It is living in the world as someone who is standing in as a person who's opposed to animal cruelty and animal exploitation.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think. Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right, we have another email. It's related to all of this. This
Go
one's
for it.
from Simon. Simon here from Chicago. I've been following the whole abolitionist versus welfare debate, and I have a question for you. What do you think of outreach methods that recognize that perhaps not everyone is ready to go vegan right away, but they can do a lot of good simply by reducing the amount of animal products they eat? I personally like this approach because it is not steering them into allegedly more humane animal products, and it is not a stubborn all-or-nothing position either. It also plants the idea squarely in their heads that animal agriculture is a nightmare and that they should do their best to avoid. Vegan Outreach has had quite a bit of success with this approach by distributing their Even If You Like Meat pamphlets to young people. The idea that it might be easier and more sustainable to convince 2 people to cut their animal consumption in half than it would be to convince a single carnivore to go totally vegan. I suspect that you're going to poo-poo this approach, and you're right, but it strikes me as a very tactical bit of salesmanship that gets our foot in the door without guiding them in the direction of happy meat. Love the podcast. Be cool.
But I think it does guide them in the direction of happy meat.
It does. And of course, it would be great if everyone lessened their consumption of meat. That would be wonderful.
I appreciate the intent of what he's arguing. Absolutely.
Yeah. But there's a lot of drawbacks to this approach, even though it sounds good on the surface, I think. For one, it makes veganism seem extreme and unnecessary.
That's right.
And like we were just talking about in the previous email, and as we all know, those of us who are vegan who are listening, it is neither.
It is neither extreme nor unnecessary.
No, I think it is rather extreme to kill billions of animals in the United States alone for people to eat, and they don't need it.
And for no good reason.
Right. So, we want people to see that it is not hard, it is not extreme, it is logical and necessary. What's wrong with that?
I think that's really easy. That's what we should be promoting if we're vegans.
Exactly.
That's what I think.
Exactly.
Why run from our conclusions? That's what I'm wondering.
Right.
Why run from our arguments?
Right.
Right? If this is what we believe, that's what we should promote. We shouldn't promote half-hearted, limp-wristed, milquetoast ideas.
Yeah.
We should promote what we believe.
Exactly.
We shouldn't water it down.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that it shouldn't be phrased in different ways for different audiences, that it couldn't be approached in different styles. Mm-hmm. But there's no reason for us to run from our message. Not
at all. When we have good arguments, we have a good message, and it goes back again to this what I was just saying with the previous email, is that it's if you say to people, "Oh, reduce your meat," you think veganism is not necessary. Veganism sounds like a diet again,
right?
And the reduction of meat is just like a diet, and it's all about your diet, and that's all that it is. And it certainly wouldn't get people to stop wearing leather or anything like that.
Nope.
And it's not a diet.
It's not.
And who's to say, okay, you reduce your meat consumption for a little while, and then we're like, oh, well, if I have another, piece of ham or, another chicken leg here, it doesn't matter, and people are going to go off of it.
The other thing that I think goes missing a lot with this kind of idea is what goes missing is the basic ideas behind veganism. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so essential. Yeah. And so even if it's not pushing people in direction of happy meat, it still kind of has that welfarist tint to it because it still reifies the fact that animals are okay to use. That's right. It's okay if you eat some of them. Yeah. We just don't believe that. It's not okay. I completely agree that, I wouldn't tell someone, it's a moral wrong issue. Mm-hmm. If I knew a racist, I wouldn't be like, dude, you should tell fewer racist jokes. Mm-hmm. You should stop telling racist jokes, period. Yeah. And I would love, for example, my family to eat less meat than they do. Yeah. And I would love for that to happen. But at the same time, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to go around promoting that idea to everyone. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say, no, veganism is great, and this is why. Right.
You know?
I think eating less meat on the way to veganism is okay, but I think veganism needs to be the central idea there.
Exactly.
So I think if you say to someone, hey, why don't you try to go vegan or try to live a couple, here and there as a vegan when you can, but promoting veganism is essential. What's wrong with the dog?
I don't know, but he keeps pushing me away.
Yeah,
I'm like moving.
Okay. So
right.
that's what I think. And Simon, we appreciate the email, and I understand your idea.
Yeah, I mean, it does. It sounds good. Yeah, reduce meat. That'd be great. But, like you said, we need to put the vegan message out there.
I agree. All right, what else?
That's all for emails.
Cool. So where'd you put the voicemail?
It should be in there.
Should I play the email closing?
Sure.
The other
Why
one?
not?
You've got mail.
Okay, let's see here. Cialis? No, don't need that. Bigger bus size? No. Free iPod? Oh, it might do that. Oh, are you pleasing your woman? Well, you better ask her. Oh, well, what's this? Vegan Freak email? Vegan Freak email. Yes.
Can you pick that up for me? Hey, we're back. Sorry, I dropped something on the floor, and the dog is chewing on one of his Nyla bones. Oh boy, you'll hear this.
Oh, yeah. Mom,
Can we move him?
Can you go somewhere else and do that? He's having a grand old time.
He's chewing on the table
Now he's
itself
chewing on
now.
the table.
Hey, yo! Don't do that. Anyway. Doing this internet radio thing, I thought you were going to move him.
You move him. No, I give him a piece of cardboard. It's quieter.
Why can't he just do like Emmy and sleep on the floor?
I don't know. Well, we couldn't take him out for a walk today because it was like dangerous wind chills today.
It was like -30.
And
wind chill.
we took him out just to go to the bathroom, and their paws were. They was like holding his paws up like they hurt.
Yeah.
We were out there for a couple minutes. So
It's dangerous for them when
yeah,
it's this cold.
and for us.
Okay, let's roll this voicemail.
Hey, Jenna and Bob, this is Jason. I go by Jason Catola on the forum because that's my name. I'm wondering if you guys can comment on freeganism and dumpster diving in the context of sort of the abolitionist movement. Because, I tend to think of freeganism and dumpster dive food as, sort of synonymous with the abolitionist movement. I mean, that in the sense that dumpster dive food doesn't contribute any demand for animals to be treated as property, and at least within the consequentialist framework that utilitarians are using, of course, it is not contributing to any demand that would cause suffering for animals as well. So, if you guys could share some thoughts, I would really appreciate it. I'm new to the abolitionist stuff, but, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thanks, and I love your show.
Well, thanks, Jason. We also had email about this, too. Okay, here's what I think about freeganism. First off, I agree that it doesn't directly represent demand, and so from that perspective, it is not a problem. Right? I mean, taking a dumpster chicken leg out of a dumpster and eating it is not creating demand for that chicken leg, right? That's pretty straightforward. But the question that I ask a lot of Freegans when they ask me is about freeganism and my opinions on it. And I'm going to tell you, I have opinions that are probably not going to be popular with most of the listeners to the show. So I'm just going to preface it by saying that. But I say to them, look, if you were going through a dumpster and you found a human leg, would you eat it? And they look at me and go, yeah, right, funny. I go, no, I'm serious. If you found a human leg, would you eat it? No. Okay, why not? And then there's this moment of pause. It's like, okay, well, it's a human leg. It's not edible. Okay, so why is a human leg edible and a chicken leg not? I mean, why is a human leg not edible and a chicken leg is? Right? And in a sense, I'm using this facetiously, but I mean, I'm also serious that for me, a chicken leg is not edible food. It is the part of an animal that was tortured. And I don't think it should be eaten by anyone.
It didn't matter if you paid for it or not.
Exactly. So that's one thing I look at. The other thing I think is that if you're going to be a vegan. Don't eat animal products, even if they're free. Even if they create no demand.
Yeah, exactly. So if you go to some friend's house and they put out food for you and it's not vegan, are you going to eat that too?
Well, the argument against that would be, well, I'm at that friend's house and they'll eventually eat it because they'll just have leftovers or someone else there will eat it, things like that. But you could argue under, some Freegans would probably say, well, yeah, I would eat it if it was given to me or free. So I think that, first off, we get so much correspondence about Freeganism. And it's like, this is such a minor thing in some ways that I wonder, like, what are people doing? Like, are you sitting around like, I don't know. I don't want to downplay it. I think living off of the waste of capitalism makes a lot of sense.
Sure, I mean, it does create a lot of waste, yes.
It does.
And, and I'm sure you can find great stuff that is just like either in a dumpster or sitting on the sidewalk.
Right.
That is perfectly usable.
Right. Out for trash.
Yeah, like furniture. Things like that.
But if you're a vegan, like I said earlier, part of the reason that one is a vegan is a matter of symbolic protests. You're a vegan because you are standing up as a person who is saying, I do not believe that animal exploitation is right. Right? That's what you're saying. So you say, I do not believe animal exploitation is right. Animals are not ours to use for our entertainment, for our purposes, for our whatever, right? And then you're going to eat a chicken leg? What is that? That is a contradiction. Thus, if you are a Freegan who eats meat, even if it's dumpstered meat, yes, you're not creating demand, but at the same time, you are undermining what I think of as the core or central message of veganism.
And granted, there are Freegans who do not identify as vegans.
That's right.
And that's fine if you're not going to be vegan. But it's so often convoluted with the idea of veganism, I think, because of the, Freegan vegan. It's just frustrating. Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah. So was it Jason? Jason, thought it could jive with abolitionism, but not at all for those exact reasons you just said, that, the animals are not ours to use. Therefore, we cannot eat them. Doesn't matter who paid for them or if no one paid for them. What's wrong?
I don't know what he's chewing on. Okay.
Cardboard.
I'm sure that, I don't know. Anyway, sorry. If you hear the banging and wrestling in the background, that's the dog moving the table that our microphones are on. And it's easier for us just to let him do it.
It really is.
What lovely dog parenting skills we have.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's being bad, fine. As long as it's not in our way. So I don't know. About Freeganism, I have some more kind of wise ass responses about Freegans too that I won't go into because it would just get us in so much trouble.
Oh yeah.
But I'll just say trustafarians. Anyway, I'll stop there. I'll just move on from that. But I do think that even if someone is a committed Freegan and they're committed Freegan for the right reasons, and they also care about animal suffering, they should not be in the position of consuming animal products, even if they're free. It just isn't food. If you're a vegan, that should not be food. It should not even enter into your orbit as a possible food source, unless you're starving. If you're a Freegan because you need to eat, I mean, my experience is most people who are Freegans, it's kind of a way of getting down with the poor people. And it's not a matter of necessity. If it's a matter of necessity, that's one thing. But if it's not a matter of necessity and this is something you're doing to get a little cred, no, I don't think it's good. And that's kind of the nicer version of the nasty things I have to say. So, anyway, right. I mean, what class privilege, too? Dumpster diving. It's like, so many people try not to have to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I agree. Let me just say, so I don't get 8,000 emails about it, I agree with the core principle of living off of the waste of capital. I understand the desire behind it. And I'm supportive of that notion. Yet, I just don't know why people want to eat meat.
Especially meat that's been sitting in a dumpster.
Especially any meat. I don't care where it's been sitting. It's like a chicken leg or a human leg.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yep.
A human hand or a chicken finger. I know. A chicken finger isn't really a finger.
I
know. Okay, should we play our little voicemail theme closing song?
Sure.
267-295-1944. Write the number down on your refrigerator door. Add the 001 country code if you call us from Vienna. That's how you leave a voicemail for good old Bob and Jenna.
Okay, so let me just say, as a way of closing that out, if you have comments, you can come over to our forums. We list a link to every podcast, to a thread about each podcast in the show notes for the show at veganfreakradio.com. You go over there and tell us we're full of shit, that we're idiots, we don't know what we're talking about. We have our heads firmly jammed in our posteriors. What else have people told us recently? Oh, we're elitist.
We're elitist. We get that one a lot. Yeah.
We get elitist a lot. I get elitist a whole lot.
Yeah.
Elitist? Like, am I the one who's telling people to shop at Whole Foods? I'm the elitist? What? No. Anyway, you can come over and say whatever you want. We actually do get a lot of nice comments as well.
Yes, we do.
And I just want to say that the nice comments do help a lot, because sometimes this is very thankless work. It can be. And, I don't want to whine, but every week doing a show, sometimes you don't feel like doing a show, and you got to like get yourself into groove. So anyway, it's nice to have feedback.
It is.
Speaking of feedback, it would be doing us a massive favor if you would go to the iTunes Music Store and leave us positive feedback.
Yes.
So go there to the iTunes Music Store and say nice things about us, please.
Mm-hmm.
That helps in terms of rankings and stuff like that. Also, vote for some podcast alley. That helps too.
Yeah, we've been doing pretty well this month so far.
Yep, and send us a email, show@veganfreakradio.com.
Yep.
Are we done the show?
I believe we are.
I think we are too. I'm kind of already talking like we're finished and I haven't played the music yet.
Yeah, I was waiting for the music. There we go.
There it goes. So, I don't know. In the coming weeks, though, we do have some interesting things coming up. We're going to talk about some of the health reasons behind veganism, which we almost never talk about.
I know.
Including a compelling personal story. It'll be like a Hallmark moment. A compelling personal story.
And we're going to talk to Sarah Kramer again, aren't we?
Yeah, we have her coming up third week in March.
Cool.
Find out what Sarah's going on. We should get Dino back on the show at some point. He was supposed to send us some audio. I said, Dino, like, totally send me some audio. And he's like, yeah, okay, Poppy. And he didn't. He called me Poppy. You can call me Poppy. It's okay. Yeah, so we've got some interesting things come up for you week after week. We are plowing through the shows. We want to keep doing it weekly, and your support helps us tremendously with that.
So thank you, everyone.
Absolutely.
We will see you again next week.
veganfreakradio.com, show@veganfreakradio.com. We'd love to hear from you.
267-295-9044.
And it should already be on your refrigerator door.
Yeah.
So, Shaw, totally. Okay, anyway, talk to you later.
Bye.
What a surprise. They say ignorance is bliss, and if that's the case, your brain dead myopia is hilarious. For you, I'm a vegan freak. That's what you think, I'm a vegan freak. You're a vegan, I'm a vegan freak. Happy as Larry, I'm a vegan freak. Oh, holy Satan, precious God is over.